you people in this room right now know somebody who should change their life. They know they should change their life. They even know how they could change their life, but they still don't do it. How many of you know somebody like this maybe intimately? Hi, I'm Tony Robbins. I want to thank you for your interest and your willingness to take action and welcome you to Personal Power, 30 Days to Total Success. You know, most people in life say they want to change their life, they want to make it better, but they don't do anything about it. The fact that you took action here and you're actually watching this videotape right now makes you what I call part of the few who do versus the many who talk. You know, you actually have followed through. In fact, large numbers of people who invest in a program like this never crack open the first cassette. So the purpose for me of this videotape is to give you a little overview of why we've done this program, how I've designed this, and to really challenge you to get everything you possibly can out of these 30 days. This 30-day program is an opportunity for you to change virtually everything in your life.
Tony Robbins is a remarkable man. Overcoming adversity at a young age, he has at 29 already accomplished more than most people have in a lifetime. He is the author of the national bestseller, Unlimited Power, now published in 11 languages around the world. He is a peak performance consultant for executives from such Fortune 500 companies as AT&T and IBM. Tony's been featured in publications ranging from Newsweek to Life magazine and on television programs like The Today Show and Merv Griffin. He recently appeared on a nationally televised half-hour special with Fran Tarkenton. Tony has helped thousands of people find new joy and power in their lives. His breakthrough technologies have recently been made available through Personal Power, a 30-day program for unlimited success, the most effective, comprehensive system for lifelong success ever created on audio cassettes. And now, Bethany Ranker Corporation proudly presents the Personal Power Video, which shows you how to create true greatness in your life.
There is a philosophy called stretching that you must decide to live by if you really want ultimate success in your life. Stretching says this. One of my first teachers taught me this. If you can't, then you must. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, if you say that you can do anything... This tape is kind of a trigger tape, if you will. In doing interviews with Fran Tarkenton for the television show, a lot of things came up, a lot of interesting conversations we couldn't use in the show, and I thought, God, I want people to be exposed to some of these ideas, because I believe that ideas, simple little distinctions, can change the quality of our life in a heartbeat. That, you know, one day you get a new belief, and maybe that new belief is that the past does not equal the future. You say, that's a pretty simple idea. It is. But for most people, they always don't try things. They don't go for it in life because they go, well, I've never succeeded in the past, so I can't now. If at any time you say, well, I can't do this, and you don't follow through, it's like you're not living your real potential. He said, if you ever say, I can't do this, then you absolutely must do it, because you're admitting to a limitation you don't need to have. I said, what does that mean? If I can't jump off a cliff, then I must? He said, no, be intelligent. He said, but if you ever find something that by doing it, it could make you more of a person, more powerful, more benevolent, more loving, more strong, more resourceful, and you don't do it, you're cheating yourself and everybody around you. So I want you to consider living by this. And I got to tell you, if there's any one philosophical shift that changed my life, it's been that one. Because anybody who knows me will tell you, there's one thing that Tony does, it's stretch. That's what I do on a regular basis, and it's shaped my whole life. That's why I get to talk to you right now. Because the times when I feel like I just can't do it, I can't go another step, I can't push any more energy out, I can't do anything, then my brain goes, then you must, and I go for it. And as a result, I discover who I really am, just as you do. So my challenge to you is begin right now. Start your first tape, or watch the video and begin it. But begin now. And know that with each action you take, you're building to a brand new future. Let's begin. Yes! Grab a seat, let's do it. Grab a seat.
Section 1, the number one key to all success.
My definition of success changed through the years to doing what I want, when I want, where I want, with whomever I want, as much as I want, in a way that hopefully also benefits other people simultaneously. That, to me, is ultimate freedom, that's success. How many of you are willing to play with that as the definition, at least for this weekend? Say aye. All those opposed? Motion's carried. Now, That was my idea of success, and I'd had that in my life, and I wanted it again. So I thought, okay, what I need to learn is there are all these things you can do. There's this and this and this, all these different elements you can study. I want to know one thing. What's the one thing, if you just work on that, everything else will fall into place? What is the number one key to all success? That's all I want to know. So I went around and I started studying it. I started picking up books. And have you ever done this? Have you ever asked yourself a question, picked up a book, opened maybe the middle of the book, and there's the exact answer you were looking for? How many have had an experience like that? So here I am, and sure enough, I'm reading through this book, and I open it up. Whammo! It says the number one key to all success is. Almost the very way I had languaged it in my head. So I thought, sure enough, here it is, goal setting. I figured that's true. Because if you don't have a goal, you have no reason to use your skill or ability. I heard that old phrase that said, well, a man without a goal is like a ship without a rudder. They both end up on the rocks. Kind of corny, but true. I thought, that is it. The number one key to success is goal setting. Of course, I'm a good student, so I always read another book. The second book says, forget goal setting. Goal setting is nice, but that is not it. You can set goals till you're blue in the face. What you've got to learn to do in your life is manage your time. Because you can have great goals, but if you don't manage your time, time is the only resource you can control. It is your life. I thought, that's true. The number one key to all success, time management. Of course, then I read a third book. It said, forget time management, forget goals. The whole key to it all is discipline. You can play with your time management all day long, but if you can't discipline yourself, you've got nothing. I thought, that's true, it's discipline. Till I read the fourth book, which says, forget discipline, forget time, and forget all this stuff. It's all belief. Because if you're disciplined but you don't believe it's going to work, it won't. Or even if it does, you won't see it working. Now, by the way, which one of these is truly the number one foundational key to all success? That's right, they all are. In fact, the list doesn't end here, does it? So that got me frustrated. I thought, God, how do you work on all these things simultaneously? I want to know the one thing that if you worked on this alone, everything else would fall into place. And I searched, and I searched, and I interviewed people until one day I came across the number one key to all success in life. If you're interested, you might want to write this down. Only if you're interested in the number one key to all success in life. If not, don't bother to jot it down. The answer I came up with, the number one key to all success is knowledge. Knowledge. I said, certainly people who succeed, they know things that other people just don't know. That's why they're so much more successful. I thought, knowledge is it. And as soon as I wrote down knowledge in my notes, I crossed it out because that's definitely not it. How could you even write that down? Come on. You got to know better than that. See, if it was knowledge, then everybody who's educated would be successful, and you know that's not true. Right? How many of you in this room, how many of you people in this room right now know somebody who should change their life? They know they should change their life. They even know how they could change their life, but they still don't do it. How many of you know somebody like this maybe intimately? Yeah, that's right. So knowledge by itself is not enough. See, knowing is great, but it's not enough. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is information. Power is something else. And what I think is the really number one key to all success is something I call personal power. This is really it. Jot it down. Personal power. That, to me, is the single number one foundational key to all success. If you use it, you can get everything else that you want. Personal power means the ability to take action, to follow through, to take the steps that are necessary to take an idea and translate it into reality. And it's the number one tool that most people in life never exercise, and it's the gift that every one of us has right now and at any moment in our life. Even if you haven't used this gift for 20 years, right now, by one decision, you could start using your power. You could start following through. You could take this idea in your head and turn it into physical reality. Whether that idea is how you want to make your relationship, or how you want to influence your children, or the kind of money you want to make, or a business you want to start, it doesn't matter. It is available right now. If all you do is decide and then follow through. Now you go, but Tony, what if I do all that stuff and it doesn't work? Guess what? You'll learn something.
Tony, hard to imagine this now as we look at you in this setting. But when you were in that 400 square foot apartment, 38 pounds overweight, broke, in this deep, dark hole, couldn't get out, what was the first thing you did? What was the first thought you had to get yourself out?
I think part of it is I felt so darn much pain, I had to change. You know, I was in a place where I hated what I was doing. I hated the environment. I thought to myself, why do I have to do this? Why am I experiencing all this in my life? I don't want to work. I don't want to do any of these things. And that didn't change me. Once I got enough pain, one day I changed the question I was asking myself. And instead of saying, why do I have to do this? Or how come this has happened to me? I ask the question of, what would happen if? What would happen if I turned my whole life around? What would happen if, all of a sudden, I went and learned some things that could change it all? And what I began to do literally is open up a new possibility. I think most people's lives, they fail primarily because they don't open up the possibility, so they never take the actions that could change their life. And because I asked, how can I turn my life around? You know, what can I do to make things work? I started getting new answers. You know, they say, ask and you shall receive. Ask and you shall receive. And the key is, if you ask, why is my life so horrible, you'll get lots of information about why it's horrible. If you say, why can't I ever succeed, your brain will tell you all the reasons why you can't. If you say, how come I always succeed? How can I turn this around? How can I make my life greater? How can I contribute? You'll get those answers too. If you want to change your life, change the quality of questions you ask yourself each day.
Section 2, changing your core beliefs.
If you want to be as good as somebody else at anything, first of all, realize they have a nervous system and so do you. If they can produce a result, so can you. I don't care how many years of experience. You can absorb some of that experience because a lot of the years of experience are trial and error learning. How many agree with me on that? So do you have to go through the same trial and error? No, you can learn from what took them 10 years. Many times you can learn in a few minutes if you know what to look for. There are 3 things you must duplicate to duplicate someone's success. Number 1, duplicate their beliefs. You must have the same key core belief systems. If you duplicate somebody's belief systems, you begin to think like they do, take the same kinds of actions to get the same kinds of results. Beliefs, as simple as they are basically the floodgate that opens up ability or shuts it down. Now, for example, have you ever had an experience where somebody's turned to you and said, hey, would you please get me the salt? And in your head you think, I don't know what the salt is. You walk in the kitchen thinking, I don't know what it is. You open the cupboard, you look all over down, you can't find the salt. Finally you say, I can't find the salt. The person walks right in, stands right next to you, reaches right in front of your face and goes, what is this? How many have had one of these experiences? Now, did your eyes see the salt? Answer, yes. Why didn't you perceive the salt consciously? Because you gave yourself not an embedded command, a direct command. You said to the brain, I can't find the salt. So when I saw the salt, the brain went, wait a second, we don't want to make this guy into a liar, so let's just block this out. In psychology, we call that a scotoma, where our beliefs are so important to us that we'll blind ourselves or block out things that would violate them for us.
Tony, I would get irritated when I was playing football and people said, but you know, you got a special gift, a special talent to throw the football and be a football player. But I knew that I had to learn those skills and I earned those skills. But yet I'm sure people come to you and say, well, Tony, you know, you've got a very special talent and a gift that separates you from the rest of us. Yeah. Is that true?
No, it's not true, and it's what costs most people their success. Because most people look at role models and say, they're different than I am. And they weren't. They started out just like you did, with just knowing what they want and getting themselves to do specific things. And they got coached along the way, and they got results. I don't deserve success any more than anybody else does. I'm not any more special than anybody else is. But I learned to change my beliefs. Because, see, we only get what we think we deserve. And so what I teach people to do is how to change their whole life by changing those core beliefs that if you don't change them, your life will not change long term, not on a major scale. And if you do change them, your life becomes something that isn't so effortful. You aren't being pushed and pulled simultaneously. Things flow. And that's really what's happened in my life, and it can happen for absolutely anyone.
What you're saying is that we're all equal, but we don't get equal results.
That's right. And the difference is our conditioning, our beliefs, and our actions. Taking the most effective actions, having the most effective beliefs to support us, and making sure we do it daily.
Tony knows that role models by themselves defeat people. They defeat people by having people see the gap between themselves and the role model and worship somebody, and that's where growth stops, when you start worshiping. So Tony asks you basically to worship your own ability to confront the fear, overcome it, and to become your own person in that process.
What's the biggest, most limiting core belief system that most people have that keeps them from taking action? What would you guess it would be? Fear of what? That's right, fear of failure. Fear of failure is clearly the #1 killer of dreams and realities for people. What it is, they use this to stop them from even taking the action that could make it into a reality. So you've got to be able to break through that. Any person that I've interviewed, any person that I've modeled, who's achieved large levels of personal success, the one thing they all seem to share in common is they don't have a fear of failure. For them, it doesn't even exist. See, people who succeed understand that the bottom line is, most of the time in life when I try something, it may not work out, especially if it's brand new, especially if I haven't done it before. But they don't look at it as failure. They look at it as a learning experience. See, their whole attitude and approach to life is, I'm not afraid to try something, because the only way I'm going to ever succeed is by trying things. If you don't want to know the key to success in life, it's this: massive failure. That's the key to success. Oh boy, you go, I'm really glad I came to this seminar. Boy, this is really pumping me up with enthusiasm. But it's true. Anyone you meet who succeeded on a major scale, its only reason is because they failed more times than you have. But for them, they didn't make it feel like failure. They didn't like gunny sack all this emotion. Oh, God, I failed this and I failed that. And oh, God, why don't I ever succeed? They don't do that. The most successful people evaluate success and failure differently. For them, there is no failure. Or if there is, the only way they could fail is if they didn't learn something. In other words, if I learn anything at all, even how not to do something, then I've succeeded. Now, if that was your criteria, if that's how you evaluated whether you were successful, would that change your life? You bet. How many of you liked the feelings of failure? Let me see a show of hands. Nobody. How many of you like to learn? How many of you could virtually learn from almost any situation in life, even painful ones? So from now on, if all you do is look at the situation and learn something, then you've succeeded. What that'll do for you is it'll make you feel better about yourself, and it'll cause you to not be afraid of failure, because you go, hey, I can't fail. Because no matter what happens, I'll learn something. So I always succeed. See, you always succeed in producing a result. You don't always get your goals, but you always succeed in producing a result. It may not be the one you intended, but it is a result.
What I would say to someone that I wanted to get them to take some action would be to take a moment to themselves and just really, with no fear of success, no fear of failure, just go inside and say, what do I really want? Or who do I really want to be? Or what do I really want to have? And really think of what that is and how that feels to have that. And then I'd ask them if they're willing to do something about it.
As human beings, we are all made up of the same stuff. We all have the same basic framework. We all have a brain. You know, we all have the same basic physiology. And so, his idea that if anyone else in the world can do it, so can I, works. It's just a matter of knowing what it is they did and duplicating that. You know, and that makes so much sense to me. Yeah, and we could all be, you know, a Tony Robbins if we were committed to being a Tony Robbins. You know, if we were committed to being an absolute master at communicating, then we all could if we knew how. And Tony is committed to sharing that with people. You know, he says, yes, I can do this, and so can you. If I can do it, you can too. He says that all the time, and it's true, and it makes sense. It makes absolute sense to me.
If you let your learning lead to knowledge, you become a fool. If you let your learning lead to action, you can become wealthy. And the true sense of wealth, which to me means absolute abundance, mentally, emotionally, socially, spiritually, intellectually, physically, and financially. See, that's what happens when you follow through. That's the only difference between having what you want and not, is taking action, and when it doesn't work, to learn from it, learn from that, and take a better action next time. Learn from that, take a better action. If you'll go until, you will succeed. If you learn to walk, then you have evidence. You can succeed at anything, even things that seemed impossible at one time. See, how many of you can think of things that right now in your life that really once were nothing but goals? How many of you can think of something in your life that once was like a major goal, now it's just part of your life, you almost take it for granted? Interesting. See, you know how to manifest. You just got to be able to do it more often. That's all. Just a little more often. Power. What does it mean to you? Does it mean control over other people? Does it mean being harsh and not really caring? See, that's not what it means for me. Power to me is the ability to shape your life, to be able for you to create your life exactly as you want it, to be able to eliminate bad habits like smoking or drinking or anything that's really keeping you from being your true you. Power to me is the ability to help other people and help myself to live my life exactly as I've envisioned it. You deserve that power. The only thing that stops people from having their power is not what they could do. What you and I can do as human beings is absolutely incredible. What we will do is often disappointing. The difference, we've got to get clear on exactly what we want, and we've got to get ourselves to take action. This program is designed to teach you how to get yourself to consistently follow through and do the necessary things that create lifelong success.
Section 3, how to achieve personal power.
Give Daniel a hand. Nice job. There are 3 things that prevent people from following through. I call them the 3 keys to personal power. Jot them down very quickly. Because I got to tell you something, using your power is easy if these three are in place. If these three aren't in place, you don't use your personal power. The first key to using your personal power, to unleashing yourself, is to develop a high level of personal energy. The only way you're going to unleash your power is if you have an abundance of physical energy. Energy is the first key to using your power. Anything you want to accomplish in your life, anything you want to develop, anything you want to break through, whether it be developing a character trait or making a business go or influencing your children, if it's going to make a difference, it's going to require an investment on your part of energy. There's no doubt about it. So what's the challenge? The challenge is the average person in life can barely make it through the day. No one's ever taught them, and they've never practiced building up energy in their body. What do? They work hard after all 9 to 5. They fight that big traffic out there, bumper to bumper, right? They make it home. They turn on that television set. They get a little bite to eat and get to bed so they can get up early and start the same vicious cycle all over again. Well, that sounds like a great life, doesn't it? You know something? Most people in life get tied up or caught up in making a living, and therefore they never design their life. And they come to the end of their life and they find out they lived 1/10 of it. Not because they weren't intelligent, not because they didn't care, simply because they didn't have the energy to follow through. They said, God, I can barely make it through the day. How many of you can remember a day where you woke up feeling kind of tired and lethargic? How many remember a day like that? For some of you, it was recent, right? Now, on a day like that, usually when you wake up feeling really tired and lethargic, don't you usually do this? Don't you kind of like roll out of bed, and when you're really tired and lethargic, and just jump up and go, God, I can't wait to go out and help people, change the world, help my kids, and help myself succeed too. Isn't that usually what you do when you feel really tired and lethargic? No, I usually wake up and go, oh, God, another Monday. Think about it. Now think of the opposite. How many of you can remember a day in your life when for some reason you woke up early in the morning and you had an abundance of physical energy, of vibrancy, where for whatever reason you woke up feeling totally alive and excited? How many can remember a day like that? Now really put yourself in that state and think about it. When you were feeling that way, what kind of day did you have, even if there were problems? How many felt like you had a day of power where you could really shape your life? So we've got to have energy to do that, but no one's ever showed us how to cultivate it. Part of it is how you move your body. Part of it's how you breathe. Part of it is how you sit in your chair now. If you had more energy. Breathing the way you'd be breathing if you had more energy, the way you use your face. Part of it that's even more important, or equally important at least, is how you eat, your own diet. Do you know it takes more physical energy than almost any other physical activity? You know? No, not eating. Digestion is number 2 in terms of using up your energy. What's number 1? Sex. Yeah, would you stand up, ma'am, so we know who you are? That's right. Sex is the number 1 energy drain. Digestion is number 2. Now, depending upon your sex life, digestion may be the number 1 energy drain in your life. Bottom line is this. If you think about it, digestion, well, you say, come on, Tony, you got to be kidding. I said the same thing. I thought, come on, I'm a real man. I work out. I sweat. I play racquetball. I run. I do all these things. I'm a real man. I don't eat quiche. Right? You're going to try and tell me digestion takes up more energy? Yes, because most of us eat, not the way our body is designed to digest food. We eat the way we've been culturally conditioned and programmed, which does not necessarily work for our body. That's why 1 out of 4 people in this country die of cancer, and 1 out of 2 now have heart disease. Heart disease is not a virus that comes and attacks you. It's called stuffing more in than your body can process, or putting things in there that clog the body, not cleanse the body. The bottom line is, we eat, most of us, in a way where we sleep at night, but our bodies are working all night long, using up energy to try and digest food. See, how many of you wake up in the morning after, say, 6 hours sleep and you're still tired? Let me see your show of hands. Most of you. How about after 7 hours? How many even after 8 hours? How could that be? I'll tell you how it can be. Your mind is sleeping, but your body's working all night long, so you wake up and it's tired. It didn't get a rest. See, if you eat less, you can live more. Right? If you can eat in a way where you have more support for your body, you don't have to give anything up, but you can have a whole lot more energy. Now, there is a challenge. And the challenge is 2 things. One is, most of you have been conditioned to believe that you can only stay awake and alive with energy for so long, which is a total lie. It's a conditioned belief, and by the way, whatever you believe will be true for you, right? Whether you believe something is true, whether you believe it's not, you're right.
We, human beings, we do things for 1 of 2 reasons, I believe. We either do it to avoid pain, or we do things to gain pleasure. I mean, think about it. If you overeat because of 1 major reason. Because food tastes good, and you think food's going to mean pleasure. Now, being fat, that's kind of painful. But the pleasure of the food is more real, and that compels us. You can diet for the rest of your life. Dieting is painful. If you don't change your own associations to food, and get food where it's not quite as pleasurable, or certain foods at least are not quite as pleasurable, you'll always be overweight. It'll never change. If you smoke, it's because you associate stopping would be too painful than just continuing. If all we do is change that one association, we change your destiny. And if you look at where I was 6 years ago and where I was heading, it's not exactly the same destiny as I now have in my life. And the difference was some small choices, some small new techniques that I applied in my life. And they were changing some beliefs, getting clear on what I wanted, and doing some simple conditioning in my mind so that the behaviors that were sabotaging me no longer sabotaged me. Instead, I was literally pulled towards success. And anyone can do it because it's a science. Again, advertisers use it on us every day, and it works. That's why advertisers spend billions of dollars. What I want to teach people is how they can run their own brain instead of being in reaction to somebody else's programming.
I think the core of Tony's philosophy is saying, look inside of yourself, find out who you want to be, what you want to do, how you want to walk through life. And that don't let another person program you. The moment you program yourself according to somebody else's definition of who you should be is the moment you give up who you should be. And that's the core of, I think, both my philosophy and his philosophy. And I think that's the true liberation, is asking each person to program themselves.
If you feel better than before, make your fist and say yes! Very nice. Now, is energy all you need to succeed? No. See, a lot of people teach, get all excited and everything will change. You know, that's nice. It is a good start. But it's not enough by itself. I mean, you can get all excited about lifting 1,000 pounds until you get to the gym. Right? Then you need more than excitement, don't you? You need the second key to personal power. And that second key is called skill. Skill. You've got to follow up your excitement with skill. Now, there are lots of skills for us to master as human beings, but let me tell you two that I think are the minimum standard you've got to master in your life to have any level of success. Those two skills are these. Number one, we must all master the skill of being able to define specifically what it is that we want. And that is a skill. So skill number one is the skill or the ability to specifically define exactly what it is that you want. Skill number one is the skill or the ability to specifically define exactly what it is that you want. And that is a skill, because when you ask most people, what do you want? What do they say? I don't know. Hey, let me tell you something. If you've got lots of energy and you don't know what you want, you're what we call dangerous. I mean, really. You're like fuel spilled all over the place, and wherever somebody drops a match, kaboom, that's where you go. So you've got to know what you want. Now, some people, you say, what do you want? They go, I know what I want. They go, what do you want? They go, I don't want to live this way anymore. Listen, whatever you focus on in your life, you'll get. Life is nothing but a mirror of your consistent thoughts. You might want to jot that in your notes. Life is nothing but a mirror of your consistent thoughts. It's not what you think about once in a while that bugs you. It's what you focus on over and over again. And what most people do in life is focus on what they don't want, and that's why they get it. Life just mirrors it back. So you've got to make sure you ask for what you want, not what you don't want in life. Here's the second skill to master. The skill or the ability to help others to specifically define exactly what they want. Boy, that's a great skill. The skill or the ability to help others to specifically define exactly what it is that they want. See, if you can help people define what they want, you'll also very easily be able to help them to achieve it. The skill or the ability to help others to specifically define exactly what it is that they want. See, if you can figure out what you want, you can help people find out what they want, you can help each other get what you want together. Now you got some real success.
I think the reason that most people in life fail to achieve what they really want is they fail to really ask destiny questions. They fail to ask themselves, where am I going? If I continue down this road, what will it cost me? Physically, financially, emotionally, in my relationships. In fact, I feel like most people get caught up in making a living instead of designing their life, and they pay the ultimate price. I call that price the Niagara Syndrome, where what happens is we float down the river of life and never pay attention to where we're going until one day we say, oh my gosh, I'm 5 feet from Niagara in a boat with no oars. And by that time, it's a little too late. See, the time to design the next 5 years is now. 5 years from now, you'll arrive. The question is where. What you do.
Section 4, taking control of your life now.
It's not what happens, it's what you do that makes the difference. Pretty simple phrase, one that probably none of us here would argue with. It's not what happens in our life, but what we do that makes the difference. See, it's not what happens in our economy that determines how we're going to do financially. That's not it. It's what you do with the economy. Do you know that during the Depression, more people became millionaires than any time in our history? Do you know, almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, in October, when we had the little stock market crash, more than a little one, that there was one gentleman that day that I know of that made $3 million that day? See, it's not what happens, it's what you do with the happenings that determine the quality of your life. Now, most of us know this, but sometimes it's one thing to know it, it's another thing to live it. And that's really the difference. Lastly, how many of you have ever had an experience in your life where you were in a relationship with somebody that you absolutely, totally, deeply love, and you really gave them your all, and you were really there with them, and then one day they stomped on you, they left, or they crushed your heart into a trillion pieces? How many have had an experience like this? Let me see a show of hands. Yeah, well then, judging by the number of hands, the question in life is not, is it going to happen to you? The question is, when? Or better yet, what are you going to do when it happens? What are you going to do when you do everything right and it still turns up wrong? By the way, is that possible? Is it possible to do everything right and still have things turn up wrong? Is it possible for a farmer to be a good farmer, an honest farmer, a sincere farmer, a spiritual farmer, go out and work every single day, plant his seed, do everything perfect, and then the day before the combines go in the field to reap his reward, is it possible that a hailstorm can come and destroy the entire crop? Even if he's a good farmer? You go, well, that's not very fair. Who said life was fair? But you know what? If the farmer keeps sowing, he will what? Maybe not this season, but he will. See, but you got to know sometimes it won't work out. But see, when it doesn't work out, if you go, why did you do this to me, Lord? Why do you always do these things to me? Why does this always happen to me? That will not change your life. What you got to focus on is, what are you going to what? Do. Because otherwise you're just a victim and your life ends. So you got to take control.
Asking for equal rights without asking for equal responsibility is the opposite of taking control over one's life. And so part of what Tony and I both help, I think, people do is to say that for every right, you have an additional responsibility. And for every responsibility, you have to create the outcome. You can't ask the government to do it for you. You can't ask your father to do it for you. You can't ask a husband to do it for you. And as long as you're expecting somebody else to do it for you, somebody will always be extracting something from you, and you will never be your own person.
Some people think in life, well, life is kind of, all life does is give you a challenge. And once that challenge comes, it's like a big wave, and it smacks you. And if you can survive that challenge, then the rest of your life is smooth. Is that how life is? No, listen, if a wave isn't hitting you now, one's on its way. Boy, you're really a positive guy. Hey, listen, I am positive. I'm not saying the wave's bad. I think waves are great. If it wasn't for waves, life would be boring. Does that mean I say you have to have terrible things and drama happen in your life? No. See, the next time a wave comes, you're prepared. You've learned from the last wave. And now instead of being beat up by the wave, you're ready to take advantage of it because now you have a surfboard. See, that's what I'm talking about in life. See, some people in the winter freeze to death. Other people ski, right? Decide how you want it to be. It's not the weather. It's not the happenings. It's what you do. That's what determines the quality of your life. And the only thing you can control is the doingness. So don't be surprised. Don't be one of those people that teaches people, now you just got to be positive no matter what happens. And just look at your garden and say, there's no weeds, there's no weeds, there's no weeds. They will take your garden. You got to look at the garden and say, there's some weeds there. Let's tear these suckers out. Whap! And then move on. That's life. You ever heard the phrase that says, a coward dies 1,000 deaths, a courageous man only one? See, I used to really worry all the time. And my worries, I began to realize one day I finally got it. That I was creating 10 times more pain by worrying because most of the things I worried about never happened. But they might as well have because I felt just as much pain as if they'd occurred. In fact, it'd be better just to let them happen because at least I'd only experience it one time. But I experienced it hundreds of times. I finally decided one day, hey, I'm just going to wait, and if it happens, then I'll deal with it. Otherwise, I'll set it aside and move ahead in my life because it's not going to be anywhere near as painful as running it 19 billion times in my brain.
Someone once remarked that if you want to be successful, all you have to do is show up. If you show up, you'll be ahead of 85% of the people in the free world. Now, show up on time, and you'll be ahead of 90% of the people. Show up on time with a plan, and you'll be ahead of 95% of the people. Show up on time with a plan, and then put it into action. That's city. That's it. You will be 100% successful. So the longest step, as we know, of any journey is the first step. You have to take the step.
If you want direct control of your life, you're not going to get it by the things you buy or the things you earn or the things you achieve. Only by taking total control of your emotional states. If you take control of that, you can totally shape your behavior. And by shaping your behavior or your actions, you shape the quality of your life through the results that you get on a daily basis.
I believe what human beings can do is not the question. It's what can you do in this moment? In other words, having been on the air and had a situation happen where you screwed up, and after you did something, you thought, God, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I did that. It's so dumb. Of course you have, right?
Sure.
You've also had the times where you're on a roll, where things just flow, where it's just automatic, where afterwards you think, God, I like that. I don't know how I did it, but I like that.
Yeah.
So the difference in your behavior is not ability. It's the state that your mind and body is in at that moment in time.
Have you ever snapped at somebody and had nothing to do with them at all? It was just the state you're in? How many of you have ever done that? Okay? So bottom line is, we've got to learn to control this, and we control our life. Plus, this is what you're going for anyway. Why do people drink alcohol? Why do they eat? Why do they do anything? They do it to change the way they feel, their states. It's why they watch TV. It's why'd you come here? For this. Well, what we're going to show you how to change this so you don't have to rely on the outside world. Well, you are totally in control at any moment. No matter what's happening, you can control this. How? Two ways. First way to control it, we've already talked about, and that is by directly controlling your physiology. Once again, it's just a fancy word for how you use your physical body. The way you move, the way you breathe, the way you speak, the way you gesture, the tempo of your words, the volume of your words, all of these things affect immediately your mental and emotional states, your ability to process information. In other words, if we change our body, we can instantly change our ability, our feelings, whatever it takes. You've got to realize this is the button that turns everything on. Most of us think the other way. We think, well, gosh, I've got to think positive, and then my life will feel good. Garbage. Move positive, and instantly, if you keep doing it, your brain starts to function differently. You start to feel and experience the results that you want. And what's exciting is you can do that no matter what's happening around you.
What he's saying in Unlimited Power is we have tremendous power within us. The mere fact that you have had a successful experience in your life, no matter what it is, if you can take that mindset and transfer it into now what the new learning is, now the thing that you want to do, you have the capability to break through all kinds of barriers.
Last night you found out what stretching means. Stretching means if you say you can't, then you what? Write this down also. And if you must, then you can. Not only if you can't, then you must, but if you must, then you can. You can find a way. Haven't you found this to be true in your life? When it finally gets to the point where you must do something, you pull it off. The problem is most people in life don't make high enough standards for themselves as musts. Most people make musts only survival or getting by or doing okay. If you want to change your life in one day, all you have to do is take things that used to be goals and make them absolute musts where there's no possibility except you're experiencing them, except you're making them happen. You will not turn back. You do that and there's no limit to what you can accomplish. But you've got to be able to get yourself to that point. Hey, listen, you are much bigger, brighter, stronger, healthier. You've got more energy, more power than you're ever going to discover until you have to. But the problem is that most people wait till life makes them have to discover how strong they are. You know what I mean? They usually get to the point where life comes along and gives them this major problem, and that makes them have to stretch themselves and grow. You don't want to wait for life to do it. You want to learn to stretch yourself, then life won't have to do it to you. Then it can be a more pleasurable stretch, one you've selected, rather than life saying, hey, you're boring, we're going to do something to make you grow.
For thousands of years, people believed, that the 4-minute mile was impossible. And then one day, one human being proved that the doctors and the trainers and the athletes themselves, he proved them all wrong. And the year after Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, 37 other runners broke the 4-minute mile. And the year after that, 300 runners broke the 4-minute mile. So I like what kind of Tony says. He says, who says you can't accomplish your goals? Who says you're not tougher and better and smarter and harder working and more able than your competition? It doesn't matter if they say you can't do it. You see, what matters is if you say it.
What I've become aware of is how often we speak negatively. We don't say what we can do, we say what we can't do. We don't ask questions that require a positive answer, we ask questions that require a negative answer. Like, how bad do you feel today? Instead of, how good could you feel? Little, very small shifts in the way you talk very small shifts in the way that you structure your sentences can make a powerful impact on the communication and what you draw out of other people. So I make it a point to speak to my children in a way that draws the positive from them and not the negative.
Section 5, the final commitment.
Now let me give you the final commitment, maybe the most important one of all. People have often asked me, they said, Tony, out of all the books you've read, all the seminars you've gone to, all the technologies you've studied, all the key people you've met in your life, out of all that stuff, could you teach me once and for all what I need to do so that for the rest of my life I am happy and wealthy? And the answer is I can absolutely teach it to you right now, and if you apply it, you will be happy and wealthy for the rest of your life. There is no question. How do you do it? It's very simple. Commit to being a team player. Commit to being a team player. You know, what does that have to do with being happy and wealthy? Everything. Let me explain what I mean. You and I as human beings are only happy when we really feel like we're growing. If you don't feel like you're growing and expanding, no matter how successful you are by anybody else's standards, if inside you don't feel like you're growing, you will not be happy. In fact, you'll either be bored or frustrated or angry or depressed. And usually you can see immediately that your life's not working because you overeat or you overdrink or you smoke or you watch a lot of TV or you do anything to try and distract yourself from the fact you don't feel good about yourself because you're not growing. How many of you have ever felt this way in your life, felt in that stuck place? So a lot of us think that, God, when I make enough money, then I'll feel good, I'll be happy. Or when I get the right relationship, then I'll feel good. Or when my kids finally get out of high school, then I'll feel good. None of that is true. What you get in your life will never make you happy. But who you become can make you very happy or very sad.
Tony, success is written all over you and all around you. Wonderful home, wonderful family, making money, best-selling book. Everybody wants to be around you. They want to learn from you. I mean, but to have success, do we have to sacrifice our family? Do we have to sacrifice our friends? Do we have to become a workaholic?
Well, hopefully my life is an example that that isn't true. That really what you can is you can have balance in your life. And I think that most people who throw their pendulum usually pay the price. They throw their pendulum and they think, though, that I can only have one or the other. And that limiting belief is what creates the problem. There are people, and I think, if people know about your background, you're one of them, that have learned to create a little bit of that balance. You yourself, as you told me, have run several businesses. You're very successful off the field, more than most people know about. Yet you have a great relationship with your wife, great with your kids, you get to travel. And so I think the answer is having the right strategy. And to me, true success is a balanced life. Having it all. That's what I want my life to be an example of. And I'm far from perfect, but I really strive to make sure that my friends are taken care of, that I get to be with them. I have the influence over my kids, the most influence, not the kid over here selling crack on the street corner. And I believe that all the tools that I teach, I really use in my personal life. I want to be congruent. That's my word for walking your talk. That there really is that example out there. Because, you can tell people all day long that, yeah, you can really have it all, but then they look at your life. And they go, yeah, you say that, but this is how you live. So I think there are plenty of role models that show it. You just have to look a little harder. Because I think the media and people around us often tend to focus on what doesn't work. The truth is, the people that succeed at the highest level in our culture, if you study their lives, you'll find out what sets them apart is they're more committed than virtually anybody else around them. They're just willing to do more, give more, create more than anybody else around them. That's what's made them so successful. And if you're willing to commit to practice, you can change your life. But I know it sounds boring. It's not boring once you get to doing it. In fact, jot this in your notes if you would. The things that I practice in private, I will be rewarded for in public. I'll tell you specifically, the real question I don't think is, can you have a successful family and a successful career? The question is, how? How do you do that? And I'll tell you something specifically I do with my family. I believe in the power of what I call moments. That in our lives, at the end of our life, we're not going to remember everything. We're going to remember certain key moments that really impacted us emotionally and physically in our lives. And so my whole focus with my family is how can I create more moments? Little things like, our dinners here when we're home is we get together and we have dinner by candlelight and we all join hands and we talk about what we're grateful for. And we don't do it out of obligation. We really feel what we're saying when we think about it because too much of our life we just kind of delete. We just let it drop by. We tend to focus on what's not working instead of what is. And if you're really successful in business, I believe, if you're really successful in your life, you have more energy to give to your family. You have more energy to come up with these creative ideas, and you're able to really make a difference. And my family is stronger now than I could ever imagine being, and I'm in a position where I've, what other people would think, I'm doing more. I've got more business, more success, more all those things, yet the families get stronger and stronger and stronger, and part of it is making it a priority, and it is a priority for me. We lose track of the fact that we're all on the same team. We lose track of the fact that the only way I'm going to be happy is if you're happy too, that what I put out always comes back tenfold. And so what happens is somebody does something, and we don't like the way they did it because it doesn't match our values, how it should be done, and we're going to make them pay the price. And let them know how we feel. But if we beat them up, we're beating up our own team, and it will come back to haunt us. Now, we know this intellectually, but we've got to learn to live this. And I know it's not easy. But if you'll remind yourself enough, maybe you'll live it a little bit more. See, this is what can change your life. Learning to treat everyone as your teammate. That'll change it a lot. That'll give you a sense of richness. And then you can contribute. You'll never get bored, and you'll never stop growing because there'll always be more people who are on your team that you need to contribute to.
Because what's the most important management job that you have is as a parent. What's the most important modeling job that you have in life? As a parent. And so if you can show your kids the kind of concepts and the kind of ways to go about excellence and model excellence for them, imagine what you're doing, because you are really the stewards of these people's lives. And what about your relationships with your spouse? The same kinds of concepts. What do you visualize as a loving, caring relationship? And how do you get that yourself into that mindset? When we all fell in love, everything was, we're on the edge of our seat and all that kind of thing. Well, how do we constantly, remind ourselves to get in the mindset that this is a person that we have chosen to spend our life with? How do we nurture them?
Can one person make a change? Can you do it in simple ways? Do you have to wait and get this big plan and eventually, you put the plan into effect and then you change the world? Garbage. You can change the world by doing one thing, becoming a team player instead of somebody who sits on the bench. By contributing to people around you all the time.